Hi, I'm Esther.
And I'm Sean.
I write about AI news here at TechTarget.
And I edit Esther's stories.
We're here to talk to tech experts about everything AI, from open and closed models to AI agents and who's ahead in the generative AI race.
And even the elusive AGI.
We've got it covered, right, Sean?
Yep, we've got it covered.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Targeting AI podcast from TechTarget Editorial. Today, our guest is Andrea Gagliano, Head of Data Science AI ML at Getty Images. She has been with Getty Images for more than 6 years, starting as a data scientist. She has a master's degree in information management and systems with a focus on machine learning and creativity from UC Berkeley School of Information. Andrea has also worked as a UX designer. Thanks for being with us today, Andrea.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Okay. Hi, Andrea. Esther gave me the first question, so I'll start it off with how did you get into the field of AI and machine learning? I know you studied it in grad school and college, but you also have your own creative projects. How did you first integrate AI with photography and other creative work? And how do those projects relate, if they do relate, to your work at Getty?
I started in undergrad studying mathematics, pure mathematics. And then in grad school, I was in grad school around 2015, which is right around when uh, neural networks started becoming more popular again, and some of the current forms of deep learning became more popular. And I think the first kind of art and technology project that I saw was Google's Deep Dream at the time, which got me really excited about this space. And I had this background in math, but I also was beginning to just become more creative myself. I was not very creative when I was a kid, but in adulthood have gotten into writing poems and doing oil paintings and drawing and charcoal and just really leaning into more of my artistic side. In grad school, I took a natural language processing class, which was really the first class where I started to be more hands-on with these machine learning models. And because it was a NLP class, I was really interested in how do I use these models to generate poetry. And so that was really the first time that I started to kind of combine machine learning and artistic things together, really generating poems. I was using a Markov chain model at the time, which feels so ancient and small now compared to generative models today. But it was the first time that I was really grappling with what does it mean for a machine to uh, be a collaborator with a human in some sort of creative endeavor or artistic attempt. What does it mean for authorship when you have a machine that's generating lines of a poem? Um, and so a lot of the kind of fundamental questions that I deal with today, also in the creative space, still in the machine learning space, started at that point in time.
I was going to ask about that conflict, right? Because that was before ChatGPT, right? So, as someone who is into art and artistry, and now you're using it to generate poetry, you basically said, did you feel that internal conflict of like, is this really like, am I cheating here by generating poetry? Or is this something else I'm really supposed to do? Or did you feel that freedom of like, oh, this is just a new way to go ahead?
Yeah, it's a good question. And this was back in 2015, so well before ChatGPT. What I really struggled with was when I read a poem, I get very excited and intrigued to understand the author and where the author is in their life experience and what they're dealing with at the time. I think adds a lot of color to a poem when I read it. And so when the machine that I was building was generating poetry, it felt flat and I was kind of disappointed, right? Because there's no hand author, human author behind that gives that poem its life. And so in a way it felt lifeless to me. But on the flip side, I was really intrigued by the technology because I wanted to as somebody who felt like I wasn't a creative when I was younger, but then in adulthood found creativity and it brought so much like life and vibrancy and color to how I see the world and different perspectives. I liked that the tool was making creativity more accessible to a novice, or more accessible in terms of inspiring people, making them feel like they can at least get started from a creative practice as opposed to feeling like they need to be an expert out of the gate. And so I saw the flatness of it, but I also appreciated how it could be used for inspiration and sparking creativity.
Very interesting perspective. I'm sure we'll probably explore that a little bit more as we dive in. But like when you talk about that was 2015. So speaking specifically to Getty, right? What was Getty's images AI strategy before the popularization of Gen AI, and then how have Getty pivoted since like 2021 and so forth?
Our Getty Images AI strategy has not changed a ton over the years. Our strategy has always been, how do we provide really great content to our customers who are doing a creative work. And I'm speaking to our strategy that's really on the creative side of our business. So for those that don't know, Getty Images has two sides: editorial, which is very news, sports focused, and then creative, which is very, might call it traditional stock photography, that's very campaign focused. So in the creative domain, we want to give our customers the best content possible and help them with their creativity, whether that is with camera shot imagery or AI generated imagery. And so years ago, we knew the AI image generation was coming. We just didn't know when. But that strategy remains the same: of customers need really good content for whatever creative project they're working on. How do we provide that no matter the source, whether that's camera shot or synthetically generated? But the key is to provide that content in a way that really reduces the customer's risk. So our customers are doing big campaigns. They want to minimize risk as much as possible. And so that strategy has remained the same. I would say what's changed over the past couple years is just how that strategy has manifested. So the specifics of it. So, for example, we have decided to um, launch our own generative AI by Getty Images product, which generates text to image, having our own modification functionality where someone can take a camera shot image and then modify it using generative tools. And then we've also elected to not allow uploads of generated images from other platforms to our library. And so those are the specifics that kind of manifest that strategy.
So I think you guys recently partnered with Hugging Face to provide a clean data set. What is a clean data set? What makes it clean? And who's going to use this data set and how?
So what makes it clean? So a clean data set is really a training data set that a model is trained on that can lead to a commercially safe or responsible model. And so a clean data set for us is really a data set that doesn't include any brands or products or intellectual property. Because if you train a model, if you have a training data set that has a bunch of running shoes with the Nike swoosh on it, and you train a model, that model is going to be able to generate Nike swoosh on a running shoe. And that's really concerning to the end users or end customers of this product. And so I mentioned reducing risk for our customers. That's one of the ways that we really want to reduce risk for them, is making sure that they can't generate anything that's IP infringing. Second way that we have a clean data set is really making sure that there's no celebrities or known people or known likenesses. So there's no Taylor Swift in the training data set, there's no celebrities, there's no one you would recognize. And the people that are in the training data set, we have licenses for. They're called model releases, which is basically a legal form that an individual signs saying, yes, you can use my picture with my face on it in the model training. And then the third way that it's clean is that all the images have licenses on them, which means that when there's a license, the creator can be compensated accordingly. So that Hugging Face data set is really a sample data set of our whole library. other customers come to Getty Images and they'll license subsets of our library for machine learning AI model training purposes. And so the Hugging Face clean open data set is really a sample to give a flavor of the richness of the data, the high quality of it, and to get a sense of how clean it is.
Oh, thank you. That's cool.
You guys have taken kind of steps here to ensure like certain cleanness, so to speak, right? And I wanted to go back to something you mentioned before. It's like you opted to not allow AI generated images from other platforms, and then you're also making sure that there are no celebrities and people in that platform, right? I wonder, do you think that if we had had that sort of like base of clean data set from the very beginning of generative AI, might we have avoided all these, problems that came up after the fact and various lawsuits and so forth?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think that if AI researchers and model developers had licensed all of their training data from the get go, we would have to bypass all of these lawsuits.
Speaking of lawsuits, you guys sued Stability AI. I don't know where that is right now, but I want to focus more on your image generator of your own. And so, what's been the response to that? And what's the system that you use to compensate artists with a image generator? And how do you determine whether it's fair compensation?
So we built our own image generator in partnership with NVIDIA. That image generator is trained on only our Getty Images library. There's around 200 million visuals in that library that we've trained that model on. And as I've described, that training data set's very clean. No Nike swooshes, no Taylor Swift, and then we have the licenses um, to the images, so we are able to compensate the photographers that led to that set of data. The way that we're able to compensate those creators is there's two parts of that equation. There's one which is everyone in the training data set gets a portion of revenue. So as our generative AI by Getty Images makes money, every dollar that we make, a portion of that dollar goes to those that contributed to the training data set. Half of that is based off of kind of a peanut butter spread where everybody gets the same equal amount. The other half of that compensation back to creators is proportional to how their content is doing in our camera shot portion of our library. And the reason being for that is the more unique imagery that we bring into the training data set, the more additive it is. If you have clouds already in your training data set and you bring in more clouds, that's not actually beneficial. But if you bring in new content that reflects people and reflects society and reflects updated clothing and reflects updated technology, laptops, iPhones, that is better for the model. And that is also better for our traditional licensing business where we are, licensing. People are searching for images shot from a camera and licensing those images. And so part of the compensation model is also based off of proportional to how that content is also performing in camera shot licensing.
That makes sense.
I wanted to kind of gear into something that we started to speak about when you spoke about your 2015 version of generating poetry, right? And you also said that Getty kind of knew that generative AI is coming. Did you guys relate this to your artists, especially with like what they also expect in it? And then was there that fear of like, well, this could definitely change our jobs. This could lead to some loss of jobs or something like that.
We are very close with our photographers and our contributors. And so these discussions happen all the time with that community of contributors, and we're a partnership with them in that. I would say when the technology in this most current wave, the past 1 to 2 years, when image generation kind of took a step leap forward in the industry, yeah, there was fear for sure. You could see a lot of articles about that. But I think that over time, as photographers and creatives have gotten their hand on the technology, they see it much more as a tool and a way to uh, realize a vision in their head. Like they still have to come up with an idea, to come up with a prompt, to write that prompt down. And it's really hard to come up with good prompts. We see that from our customers. We see that from our creative folks. We see that from our photographers. You have to come up with a concept or an idea that you think is going to resonate with an audience or evoke some emotion, and coming up with that idea uh, is really hard. And then writing a prompt that can lead to the image that actually reflects that is really hard. We've actually found that it takes a lot more work, iterations, and effort to create an image from scratch with image generation than it is to find or search for an existing image. So I think that there's less fear around it replacing jobs, but rather how can this just be a tool that can enhance creativity, and kind of lead to that inspiration.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you mentioned how hard prompt writing is, because if you remember last year or maybe it was early this year, there was this controversy of like a piece of work of art that was submitted to like an art contest, and it was used with a image generator. It was used to generate images. So do you consider stuff like that art? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but like there was like just this like controversy around it. So uh, knowing what you know now, do you think that that was the right thing for that artist to get the award, or is that a piece of art now that you know that, oh, this is really hard to get like that vision with the prompt writing?
Yeah, this type of thing has come up multiple times, so I'm not sure which one specifically you're referring to, but I think that if there is a lot of human effort and human work that goes into creating this output, then absolutely it's a work of art. It's a work of curation, it's a work of selection. You can generate so many things, but that just creates noise. What's actually the thing that is really powerful, and selecting that and choosing that. So there's that piece of it that's artistic. And then there's also the piece of it that's artistic is that you're going through many iterations, and there's so many tools out now with in painting and out painting and with various control nets that allow you to use reference images or reference sketches to sculpt or create what you're getting out in the generated image as opposed to just the text to the image. So I do think that there is a lot of iteration, a lot of kind of working with these tools at their disposal to get what to the vision that's in your head.
Oh, right. Sounds great. By the way, Esther, I wanted, and Andrea, I wanted to, full disclosure, we are a Getty customer. I just remembered that, so with TechTarget in our editorial division and in our, like, we're a big
That's
customer
excellent. I love
of you
that.
guys and always have been. I don't think we have the image generator and stuff like that, but I just wanted to put that out there to our audience that we have been using Getty Images for as long as I've been at TechTarget, 10 years at least, if not much longer. So thank you, Getty, for all your great images. But we'll still ask you hard questions, as you can see from Esther. So
Well, I didn't know that, so
now I have an easy question. So Getty's partnered with other vendors. You had Hugging Face, but also NVIDIA. Can you talk about that particular partnership and what you get out of it? I mean, I realize they're like the biggest AI company in the world, pretty much, or at least full stack hardware software vendor. So I would see why you would partner with them, but how does that work with them?
Yeah, it's been a really, really wonderful, fruitful partnership with them. We largely because we play to our strengths. Like us at Getty Images, we have this huge library of content and it's training data, and it's very clean, as we've talked about, some of the cleanest data set I've ever seen. And then you pair that with NVIDIA's expert research team, very technical. They can build custom models, and then they're obviously all of their GPUs that they have access to. You need thousands of GPUs to train these types of models. Um, and that's very expensive. And so NVIDIA is a great partner to have to really combine those three ingredients: the researchers, the GPUs, and then the training data.
Well, that certainly does make sense.
What would you say makes you a differentiator in the market, right? Because you have competitors like Adobe, especially when it comes to generative AI. And I know that you guys partner with NVIDIA, that's good. But how do you guys differentiate yourself when you're, I guess, pitching yourself to new clients?
Really, the thing is how clean and risk-free our model is. If you compare it to other models maybe have been trained on licensed data, but they've also been trained on Creative Commons or public domain data, which that data is not clean. There's still Nike swooshes in that data. There's still Taylor Swift in that data. Other competitors have trained on synthetic output. So maybe they take one model, like Midjourney, generate synthetic output, and then use that in training of their model. We don't do any of that. We use 100% real human created content. The other piece is how we differentiate is if you go and try on other models and you try to create celebrities, often you can create them. If you try to create brands, often you can create them. On our model, we have really extensive prompt blocking as kind of a second layer of defense to make sure we cannot generate any deep fakes, we cannot generate any brands, we cannot generate any celebrities, in addition to the really, really clean training data.
There was a question that Sean asked me before it was well like off air, but it's kind of something that I have to ask you. I'm doing something on election misinformation, and so what I've noticed is there's this like some of the language models, they will not answer the questions, right? That's how tech companies have dealt with it. And so you having like this like prompt blocking, what did you call it? Was it prompt
Prompt
block?
blocking, yeah.
Prompt blocking, do you see that it prevents a lot of hallucinations? And then do you think it's the right way of dealing with the issue if the system just won't generate bad things at all?
Well, does your system block election prompts also?
For sure. Yeah. Anything related to the election, anything related to presidencies, anything related to wars, we block it all. And I when you say about what's the correct way of doing this, I would say the correct way is to do it in as many ways as possible because it's such a big problem that we want to try to have as many safeguards as possible. So when I say that, there's kind of three areas. There's you can block the prompts, which is prompt blocking. You can block the outputs before that. Like maybe the prompt goes through, but you generate an output, but you could block the output. For example, not safe for work, sexual content blocking might happen at that level. And then the third way is to really make sure your training data set is as clean as possible because you can always get through the blocker. You can always generate something that maybe isn't detected on output. And so I think really the strongest safeguard is making sure your training data set is as clean as possible because the model can't produce something it's never seen before.
And then does it fix hallucinations as well?
So in the image space, the word hallucination is a little bit interesting because we're not generating facts like you would in an LLM. You're generating an image. And so a hallucination for us would basically be like if the image is generating something that doesn't adhere to the prompt. So if you say dog running on a beach is the prompt that you want, and then it generates a cat, I would consider that a hallucination. That doesn't usually happen. Our latest release of the model has much better prompt adherence, but it's not going to, different from LLMs, you're not generating facts. So it's less of a problem. It's more a prompt adherence, which I would say is a lower risk item than when an LLM is hallucinating a fact.
Okay, sorry. Just going back to this election thing, just a little bit. Like, what if I wanted to do an image that was just of, two candidates, anonymous facing off, or whether I wanted to the system produce an image of, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? Like, how is that harmful to just produce a basic image of something that looks like that? Like, can you differentiate at that level? Would your system be able to give me an image of the two candidates without going into, actual political issues? That's one question. My other question is somewhat related, maybe not related, but do you have an indemnification clause, and how does that work to remove all risk?
So to answer your first question, um, we have taken the very cautious approach where our generator will not generate any known person or any celebrity. So it will not generate Donald Trump and it will not generate Kamala Harris. It has never seen a picture of Donald Trump. The model has never seen a picture of Kamala Harris. As far as like maybe you could just generate a picture of a candidate and then that's not concerning. Really depends how that picture is used. There's a lot of nuance to that is, you're edging into the world of deep fakes that we would like to avoid. And so we've taken the very cautious approach of we don't even want this model to know anything about these known people, politicians, presidents, celebrities, because the risk is too high of creating a deep fake. Either way, in creating a generated output, we feel it's really important that those generated outputs are labeled as such, that they're labeled as synthetic or they're watermarked as being synthetic and AI generated, because we don't want any situation where we start to undermine the value of a real image or the truth that is told through a real image of pixels shot by a camera. For as far as indemnity, absolutely, we provide indemnity. We provide uncapped indemnity for customers at a different price tier. Every image is indemnified because we have that trust in our training data that we're not going to create some sort of infringing output.
All right, without going into your proprietary business practices, have you had to pay anybody yet? And maybe how much? Or can
For
you
the
not answer?
indemnity?
Yes. Okay. You haven't had to do it.
No.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Thanks.
So I wanted to ask about security. How do you ensure that someone doesn't corrupt the good data?
Because we rely on our image library as our training data, that's really the source that we have to look at to make sure that there's no corruption in that data. And so we have a lot of safeguards in place to make sure that when contributors upload content to our library, that we ensure that that is all camera generated, that it doesn't have celebrities in it, that it doesn't have brands or IPs of Nike swooshes in it. And a lot of that safeguard that is in place currently has been in place for many years because those are the same safeguards we provide our customers on our traditional camera shot business. And so those things continue to provide that security.
Okay, so we talk about security and safety. I mean, does Getty have a position on AI regulation, like government regulation, like how much regulation is the right amount? And have you guys taken part in any lobbying or giving input to Congress or the EU or whoever about regulation?
Yeah, we definitely are supportive of regulation that aligns with the responsible AI practices that we've talked about here. So predominantly those are things like making sure that there's transparency around training data that's used to train these models. If there's model developers are able to share and disclose what training data they're using, that allows rights holders, people that hold copyright, to stand up for their rights. And this is something that has in the industry, the very first models that came out, there was a lot of transparency around the training data that was used. That has become much more closed over the past 2 years, where AI developers are a lot less opaque and less transparent on the training data sources that they use. So that's one thing, is we really need that transparency around training data so that creative rights holders can stand up for themselves. The other piece that we really need regulation on is around labeling and watermarking of synthetic imagery. If we have synthetic imagery out in the world, consumers need to know what is real and what is synthetic. And so we need kind of watermarking or labeling techniques, and techniques that are robust enough that bad actors can't try to remove or undo. And we need that really in a way that where the model providers are helping to take on some of that burden to create that functionality in those systems. Model providers are putting this synthetic content out there. They need to also be a part of taking on finding a solution to watermarking and labeling of synthetic content. And then really we're seeing regulation, we're seeing some in the EU, we're seeing some at the state level. What's really important to us is making sure that that regulation is in place and is in place really at a federal level, so that it's consistent across different regions. And so it's more clear and easier to adhere to.
I wonder how you guys stay updated with your data, right? Because obviously you have this clean data, but how do you make sure it's up to date?
So we have new content coming in every single day. On our creative side, we have around 10 million images that come in every quarter. And so those newly ingested images and videos are packaged up and sent to NVIDIA, and is incorporated into future trainings of the model. And so that's how we make sure that we stay current and contemporary with the products we're building.
Go back to competition just a little bit. I mean, I get how Getty's a lot different than Midjourney, but why would people, buy your stuff instead of going to OpenAI or Adobe? I mean, I get that you have the clean data aspect and safety and stuff like that, but do you see yourselves as an alternative to the other, big text to image generating systems, or are you in a special niche because you're known as a stock photography company, at least in the old days?
We absolutely are. I feel we're a better solution than Midjourney and OpenAI, both from quality of the outputs of the model when you're talking about photorealistic quality of outputs, as well as speed, as well as the risk reduction. So when we launched this model, we've had many customers come to us and say that Getty Images generative AI is the only generative model that their legal team will approve. So they will not approve OpenAI's DALL-E, they will not approve Midjourney, they will not approve other competitors. And that's because we check all the legal boxes, and our approach is very clean. Other competitors claim that they are commercially safe and clean, but they are not, because they have also publicly disclosed that they've trained off of Creative Commons or public domain or synthetic imagery generated from Midjourney. And so, um, our model truly is the only one that meets those risk reduction bars for some customers.
Okay, I've been wanted to ask this question. It might be obvious, but did you guys build your LLM yourselves, or did you start with a foundation model from someone else like Meta or whoever?
So to be clear, this image generation model that we've built is not an LLM. It's not a large language model. It's an image generation model, and it has been built completely from scratch with a custom model architecture. No pre-trained model started on, and that's really important because it's been trained fully from scratch on our library. It's not mixed in with any other data. It's not a model from another company or another organization. It is a custom model architecture that the NVIDIA team built with our help and guidance.
Oh, wait, so have you had to staff up a lot with a lot more data scientists, or does the NVIDIA partnership kind of make up for that?
Yeah, a mix. So we work with the NVIDIA partnership for the model. But once you have the model, there's a lot of work that brings that model to light in a product where you have features and functionality and upscaling of the model and prompt blocking. And so there has been staffing that we've need to build up on to be able to bring that model to production in the products that you see online.
Right, because I always thought of Getty as you're a photo stock company or image stock company, right? I never thought of you as a AI company or a tech company or a company that needs a lot of developers. But do you see yourself evolving toward being more of a tech vendor?
We have this model, this image generation model on our site for our customers, but we also have it available in API. So developers can use the API to our image generation directly. We also offer custom fine tuning on top of the model. So Sony and Trigger XR for their new Venom movie, they have a campaign out where consumers can upload a picture of their pet and get a venomized character version of their pet. You should try it out. It's very fun, very creepy and scary. This is a model that was effectively fine-tuned on top of our generative AI model. Our generative AI model is clean, as we've talked about, so it doesn't know who Venom the character is, but we can take images of Venom and fine-tune the model so the model then knows what the character Venom is and is able to kind of produce this live campaign.
When you look at the future, obviously you mentioned in the beginning that there has been kind of like Getty has been aware of generative AI for some time now, even before the popularization of ChatGPT and DALI and all of that. What do you think is next when it comes to generative AI? There's a lot of talks in the underground about AI agents. Does that even go into this line or multimodality and stuff like that? What are you guys thinking for the next step?
We've talked about how, at the end of the day, why are we embracing these tools and innovating with these tools? It's really to improve creativity and to enhance that creative process, enhance that creative output. A lot of this new wave of AI can really kind of elevate that creativity and bring it to a higher level. And so, how do we really provide tools, whether it's in the image space, in the video space, in the multimodal space, but to really help a customer that has this like creative vision in their head and bring that to reality faster. Whereas right now, from the vision to reality, it's a lot of different tools, a lot of clunkiness, a lot of steps involved, frustrating moments. And so looking at how do we make that whole process easier.
Okay, Andrea, thank you. We're going to close up now. So thank you so much for being with us. You were awesome. Thanks for being on the Targeting AI podcast. And listeners, please check out this episode and all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other major podcast platforms. You can also find us at techtarget.com. And also for those who want to watch us, please tune into our new video version podcast on TechTarget's YouTube channel, Eye on Tech. And as for Getty Images, I think you all know where to find them. But thank you. You were great. We really appreciate it.
Thank you both so much. I appreciate it a lot.